Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. It's 1:23. Again, my name is Jenny LeBeau. I'm an assistant dean in the graduate school. And one of the tasks that I have or responsibilities I have is to work with students who have been denied residency. So you're out-of-state student and for some reason don't have all of your documentation. So I'm going to be presenting on residency requirements today. Also down here, Jenny Salagumba Graham and Jordan Willett from the graduate school, they know much more than I do on this topic, so I've asked them to kind of sit there and be ready for questions, and between all of us, we'll go ahead and try to get you on your way here as far as building residency goes. I'm going to kind of move this down. Okay, so we're just going to talk about what the requirements are. In general, Washington State, according to the RCWs, requires that you prove that you have lived in the state of Washington for 12 consecutive months. You have to prove that you have significant ties to the state of Washington, and you also need to demonstrate financial independence. And we're going to talk about what all of these mean. And in order to show that, you have to have, by state law, documentation showing that you are a Washington State resident. I will mention this probably a couple of times throughout, but it's really important that you start the process now. Getting that 12 consecutive months, you don't want to miss it just because you got started late. The deadline for submitting a residency application is the 30th day of classes, which if we look a year ahead, that's going to be September 30th, 2019, for those of you who are starting in the fall. Okay, so be starting now and make sure you're not waiting till the last minute so you get denied. There's 5 requirements that we look for when you're trying to establish residency, and again, these are all based off of that state law that I mentioned. So the first of these is that you have to have proof of domicile, so that you've been living in the state. You also have to have a Washington State driver's license or Washington identification card. Also, a Washington State voter registration, vehicle registration, and proof of financial independence. Okay, so in order to prove that you actually live in the state of Washington, we need to have some form of documentation. It can be a lease agreement that shows the dates that you moved in. It can be a mortgage if you've purchased a home. You might show rent receipts or cash canceled checks. We'll accept a letter from your landlord or your employer, or bank account statements that demonstrate proof that you've been paying on an apartment or home. And again, the key on that is that you have to have 12 consecutive payments or 12 consecutive months in the state of Washington. Okay, another big one is the driver's license. So regardless of, or aside from graduate school requirements for obtaining residency, also it's just state law to get your driver's license within 30 days of moving to the state of Washington. And that is even if you don't drive. Okay, so you might not need a driver's license, but you would be able to get an ID card, and it has to be from the state of Washington. Okay, so you can't live here and then have an ID card from another state. That doesn't work. The Department of Licensing, so I put this on here with the picture, and you can see that arrow. What gets confusing sometimes is we have a Department of Licensing and a Department of Motor Vehicles. So to get your actual driver's license, which you have to get first, you need to go to the Department of Licensing, and that is 980 South Grand. It's right there where that little arrow is. There's a little restaurant right next to it, and it's right next to the laundromat. Okay, so that's where you get your actual license or your ID card. When you go there, they're looking for a couple of things. You can actually pre-apply online first if you are getting a first Washington driver's license and if you currently have a Washington residence or a street address here in Washington. Okay, so if you have those 2 things, you can go online to this dol.wa.gov. Go in and pre-apply, then you take that information and you go to the actual vehicle licensing or licensing office. If you don't have those things, you can just go straight to the office, and there they're going to ask you for proof of your identity, okay, and we'll talk about how you can get that. That you also have to provide a social security number. If you don't have a social security number, then you have to fill out a declaration saying that you don't have a social security number. You have to provide proof of your Washington residence, which that can come in the form of, they have a very long list on their website, but it might be something like a utility bill from within the last 2 months, proof of your home ownership, an auto insurance policy that shows Washington address. They have a very long list of documents that you can use to show that you have that Washington residence. You'll also have to take a vision screening test, and if you're going to have something like an enhanced driver's license, for example, or I don't know, there are a wide variety of different options for getting a license. You might have to take some other tests that go along with that. You have to have a picture taken, because that goes on your card. And then there's also an $89 application and issuance fee, okay? You're going to want to go online to the website, to this dol.wa.gov, and just make sure you look up everything that we talk about today, but also specifically they have an outline of the different fees for different types of licenses and so forth. Okay, and then if you get, for example, an enhanced license, there might be additional fees that apply, so it might be a little bit more than that $89. I think it's like $126 or something. Okay. In order to prove your identity, the graduate school, the licensing office is going to ask you to provide either one of these standalone documents or 2 or more documents from a couple of lists they have. In some cases, you have to provide 4 documents, okay? So you just have to figure out what it is that you have available and then be able to meet one of these criteria. One of those, if you've already been driving out of state, is you can use your out-of-state driver's license as long as it's valid or has not been expired for more than 1 year. You can also use a valid U.S. passport or passport card. And I think it said on the website, no emergency passport, or I'm not sure what that is, but the card does work. You can use a valid U.S. Armed Services ID card as long as it has a photo on it, a U.S. certificate of citizenship or naturalization with a photo and a signature, and then they have a wide list of other standalone documents that you can use to prove your identity. So again, I would encourage you, go to this the dol.wa.gov/driver's license/ID proof to check out those items. Okay.
JLB? There's one thing that I wanted for you to take note, because this just happened to me a couple of weeks ago. If your name doesn't exactly match due to marriage or whatever, you're going to have to get extra documentation. For instance, my birth certificate's name was different from my driver's license, and so they required that I submit my marriage certificate also. So be aware of that. If you have a name change and it doesn't match the documentation, they will ask for extra documentation.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. That's a really good point. Yep. Okay, great. Okay, something else that you can do at the same time that you're getting your license is you can register to vote. Okay, so when you go into the DOL, they have a form you can sign. You can also register online by mail or in person. If you go, I didn't put it up here, but the address or the website is sos.wa.gov, so sos.wa.gov, and that's the Office of the Secretary of State. So they have forms on there that you can fill out, and they also tell you how to submit if you're interested in submitting online or by mail. Also, you can submit it in person to this Whitman County Auditor, and they are in Colfax, Washington, which is about 20 minutes from here, 400 North Main Street. Okay, so there's a lot of different options. Again, I feel like the easiest, if you're already having to get your driver's license, is just to do it right at the same time. Okay, and you can also contact your county auditor's office if you need proof of that date of registration as well. Sometimes that document does not get printed. Okay, so sometimes you have to ask to have something that you can bring in. And is there another way that we can see this?
Yeah, okay. So we've been getting a lot of, for the students that are applying for residency this year, it seems like half of the students did not get their voter registration card. And so what we tell them to do is log on to the internet, and there's, I don't know what it's called, Yeah, I think it's vote.wa something or another, but it's basically, you just go to that website and you type in your information, and then a screen will show up with your name, date of birth, and then also when you register to vote, and we'll take that in lieu of a voter registration card.
Perfect. Okay. Okay, I'll just take a quick pause here. Does anyone have any questions about getting a driver's license or ID card or about voter registration? Yes. Oh, and actually, sorry, can you speak into the microphone because I can't hear? Okay, thanks.
So for the driver's license, I think we need 2 documents to prove residency. Is that correct? Because I went recently, and my friend went in Spokane, and they didn't ask for any proof of residency.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've been looking at this a lot, and they have different, so let me just, shoot, I'm going the wrong direction.
I just want to make sure that we do need that, because that's what the lady
Yeah.
told me, but because we had different experiences, it was kind of confusing of like, what do we actually need?
It is, so,
It's
Yeah.
just stricter here than,
Yeah.
so it's a city-based, yeah. Which takes some time.
right.
Yeah.
It does take time, yeah. Do you want to, yeah, sorry, this, there's a lot. Go ahead.
So I know that there are a couple of students that have some housing issues, which in turn will bring on issues to get a driver's license. So what we told the student is that if you have any emails or anything to indicate that you're having issues with your housing, we'll take that. And also to ease people's minds, we do understand that money is an issue, and sometimes you wait for your first paycheck,
Right.
which is September 10th. And so we will take that into consideration when looking at driver's license, vehicle registration, and voter registration, that we will, if it's an issue date of September, we will take it.
Yeah. Yeah, and also something, it might depend on the documents. So like here, they have certain standalone documents, but then if you don't have those, the 2 or more, it can be up to 4 different documents that you have to provide. So yeah, I would also call ahead as well and just ask them so that you don't get down there. And they're also, the other thing I forgot to mention here, I said where they're located, but they're also closed on Sunday and Monday. So make sure that you're preparing for that and you don't get down there thinking it's a business day and then not be able to help, or you don't get help. Okay.
This is not a question, information. I just moved here, and last week I went to a Pullman licensing. It was very easy. All I
Good.
needed is my out-of-state driver's license and a mail. And they accepted my USPS change of address, and that's it.
Perfect.
Yeah. And even for the vehicle, it was 5 minutes. They just needed the title.
Okay. Yeah, and one thing I'm learning with this too is that, we have these 5 areas, but everybody's situation is just a little tiny bit different. And so that's why it's good to call ahead and just make sure you have what you need for your particular situation before you get down there. Yeah. Okay, good. Any other questions on these? Yes.
For the voters registration, I'm loud enough.
Well, actually, if you can do it into the mic, because I think it helps the people on the streaming. Yeah.
Is the voter registration like a strict requirement, because there's a scholarship back home that I have to be registered there to vote to get. So I can't register to vote from 2 places.
Right. I think that there is another declaration you can sign. Where you would find that, we'll have to look and see.
It's pretty specific, so I figured.
Yeah. I think, yeah. Do you have something on this, Jenny? Oops, sorry.
I do have a question, because one of the things we look at is to see if you have ties back at home, because you really do have to cut ties to say that you're a Washington resident. And so my question is, do you have an assistantship here by chance? Okay. Because what we also look at is if you are on an assistantship, when we review residency, the student has to pay 51% of their tuition. And so I think you're safe. It just kind of, my antennas went up when you said you had a scholarship from back home, so. Okay. Okay. Yeah. We won't force people to vote because we do have those philosophical conversations with students who they've never voted, they don't want to vote, and so we can't force you to vote, but you're going to have to find some other documentation to provide for your residency. So supplemental would be a bank statement with a Washington address. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Okay, yes. Well, sorry. Jordan, sorry I'm making you run around here. Oh, there we go.
So I have temporary housing, and so I won't move into permanent housing until 30 days from now. So all I have is a PO box. So I'm not sure what to do.
And so that's where, the documentation would. That's where the documentation would come in, where you have a situation where you have temporary housing, so we would need that, and we do understand that you need an address for licensing to issue a license to you. So if you have that documentation and you have an issue date of 9/30/2018, we'll take that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think sometimes, too, on that situation, if we can get a letter from whoever it is that you're living with that says you were living there, and then you can put that in so that we can add that just to have more proof that you've been residing, that you've actually been here, it just hasn't been permanent. Be great.
Yeah, so that is also another thing that we've been dealing with. There are students who are strapped for money, and so they don't have a formal lease or rent.
Right.
So they're living with someone unofficially. And so what we ask is for that someone to write a letter saying that the student has been living with them and paying part of the rent, and that letter has to be notarized. And so the second question to that is, where do I go to get a notary public? And banks have notary publics, and so Washington State Employee Credit Union downstairs, there's a notary public there.
You also mentioned P.O. boxes, and I just want to put out there, you can't live in another state and have a P.O. box here and have that count as your residence. You actually have to physically reside here. So, and that, you don't want to get busted on that because that's not good. Big legal trouble. Okay, so those are some great questions. Always feel free to call our office, or the best thing too is let us know sooner rather than later. So if we know about what your situation is, we can help you, more effectively if we have as much information as possible. Okay. Okay, so we talked about that. Vehicle registration. So just like you have to have your driver's license within 30 days, you also have to have Washington State license plates within 30 days of arriving to the state. You have to get your driver's license first, so order of operations there, get your driver's license and then go get your license plates. If you are driving a car that belongs to someone else, say your parents or someone, and it's out of state, you still have to get that car registered in the state of Washington. Okay, so that's a big one that we see come in. Also, as I mentioned before, this is not the Department of Licensing, this is the Department of Motor Vehicles. And that one is located by Sweet Mutiny down on Bishop Boulevard. Okay, so that picture doesn't have it there, but they've got a big Washington license plate on the front of their building. So it's pretty easy to find once you get down there to that 1195 Southeast Bishop. They're closed Saturday and Sunday, and again, more information on vehicle registration is at that dol.wa.gov. They have a lot of information there. As I mentioned, you have to get your driver's license first, and also the DMV, actually this is directly from their website, they want you to call ahead to find out what type of fees you're looking at and what next steps you need to take before you come to their office. Okay, so you would just go onto that website and then give them a quick call. Once you've done that, you can get your correct forms and payment in, and then you can get your plates in person or by mail. If you do it by mail, it can take up to 3 weeks, so just so you're aware of that. And then you can also set up this License Express account, and what that will do is help you to automatically renew your tabs every year. Okay, so this one I feel like is a little bit less complex, but the key here is to give them a call and find out what is it that you need specifically for your case. Yes, we're going to go to this table back here for multiple questions.
So if your vehicle is registered under your parent, how are you going to go about registering it at the DMV?
Yeah, so the question is if your car is registered out of state, how do you go about getting it registered in state if it doesn't belong to you? And they have a form there for that. It's that you would be able to fill out that would give you that registration while it's in the state of Washington. Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. I haven't. Yes, you do? Okay. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so the question, and in case people can't hear, is how do you get whoever owns the car, how do you get their signature? I have to be honest, I haven't filled that form out, so I don't know specifically what they're requesting, but I would imagine they probably do have to sign saying that it's okay that it's in the state. Okay, through power of attorney, maybe? Power of attorney? Yeah. I wish we could get internet here so we could just pull it up and look at it. But they do have a form that you can sign that will give you that. And we can look it up here if you want before you go. Yes. So the question is, if your car is insured somewhere else, like in another state, do you have to change the insurance just because you get it registered here? I don't think so. It might. Yeah. Yeah. Those two things are kind of separate. So I would say probably not necessarily, but like you're saying, it could change over. Yeah. I think you do have to update it, though, and let them know that you have re-registered it in a different state.
So I just moved here from Mississippi. I sold all my stuff and came up here, so I sold my vehicle. I'm just like riding a bike around here.
Okay.
Do I have to register a vehicle to be considered for in-state tuition?
This is such a good question. So we see this a lot. If you don't have a car, you don't have to register. You do have the vehicle registration part. But what I will say is, if you don't have a car when you start your 12 months, don't wait 7 or 8 months and then decide you want a car and then try to come in and get residency, because you're going to have to wait another whole year, right? Because you have to have 12 consecutive months with all 5 of these pieces of documentation. So if you have everything else in line and then last minute you decide you're going to buy a car, that changes your 12-month period.
Just don't register the car.
No, don't do that. That's illegal. I am not saying that. Yeah. Yeah. However, I will say I know, it's weird. Yeah, I know. Yeah. If you get into that situation where you have to buy a car, come talk to the grad school. If you're in that case, you can let us know. Yeah.
So if that's the case where you buy a car later, what we would ask for, because we normally don't ask for this, is that bill of sale.
Yeah.
So that you bought the car
Recently.
Yeah, you bought the car and then registered the car. So we do take that into consideration. Also, with students who are trying to get their parents to sign over the car or get the paperwork for that, we also take that into consideration.
Right.
So it's
Communication
not-
with the graduate school is really important around this issue.
Yep.
Okay. because we know people have extenuating circumstances, but we can't help you on that if we don't know. And the only way that we can help you is if you come talk to us, okay? Yeah. Okay, was there another question somewhere back there? No, okay. Okay, so these are the 4, so far we have 4. The last is financial independence. So in order to demonstrate to the state that you are financially independent, that means you cannot be claimed as a dependent by either of your parents on your income tax return. Okay, so again, we're looking at 12 months, so this is going to be the 2018 returns for this group here, since you're starting in 2018. And you also have to show that 51%, you know, that you're covering 51% of that cost of attendance, as Jenny mentioned. We're going to be asking for federal tax returns and W-2s for the most recent tax year. If you are 24 or younger, you also have to provide a copy of your parents' tax returns, documents that verify you are financially independent status for both the current and the prior calendar year. And when you're thinking about what that income looks like, that can include employment, financial aid, scholarships, irrevocable trust funds. Okay, so there's a number of different things there. Yep, go ahead.
So your current year would be the 2019 when you're submitting your
Right.
Residency questionnaire. The prior year would be this year. So for your parents, as Dr. LeBeau indicated, they should not claim you on their 2018 tax returns. There's also one thing that I would like to tell you about your tax returns and your parents' tax returns. What we're looking for your tax returns is to see that you filed in the state of Washington. So we're looking at your address. You can redact amounts and your social security number. Same with your parents. All we're looking for is to see if they've claimed you. They can redact social security number and amounts. So if you submit the first page of the tax return where that information is, that's all we're looking at.
And the signature block.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
For the pay, at least 51% of the cost of attendance. If I'm on an assistantship, we have to just print out a form, or?
So if you're on an assistantship, we do have access to that information. And so for people on assistantships, that already covers the 51% of the cost of attendance.
Right. Good. I think there was another question back over here. Maybe that was it. Oh, what's that? I don't know. Okay, perfect. Okay, and then how about here? Correct. Yep. This is, yeah, so the 24 years or younger is at the time that you'd submit your residency questionnaire and packet. Good. Okay. Okay. Okay, so just a quick recap, those 5 pieces of information we need: proof of domicile, driver's license or ID card from the state of Washington, Washington state voter registration, and then proof of that financial independence. You'll also complete a residency questionnaire. All of this is on the graduate school website as well, but in case you want to write that down, you can. You'll fill that out, submit it to the graduate school. Jenny and Jordan will take a look at those, and then we can let you know. It takes about, what do we say, about a month? Decisions within about a month? Or
No.
2 to, I don't know.
We try to do it at most 4 business days.
Business days, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot quicker than I thought. That's good. I knew you were fast, I just thought that was it.
And the
Okay.
typical timeline for the first packets that we're receiving for next year will be around July. We won't start processing till mid-July if you turn your packets in prior to that date. Yes.
Yes.
For instance, this week is really busy for us, and I try to review packets, within 2 business days, but then we really get impacted the week before classes and the week of classes. And so we try to encourage people to actually submit their residency questionnaire in July so that we can get a decision to you right away. Yeah. Good.
Even if you start your paperwork in August, like all of
Yep.
it, getting your driver's license and all this stuff, we can still do it in July.
July of 2019, yes.
Good. Okay. Okay. So I mentioned before, this was presentations mostly for domestic students, but if you are international, permanent residents can qualify for this status if that status was obtained 12 months prior to applying for and obtaining residency. If you're on an AEG, H1, I, K, or L visa, you might also qualify, and then you would have to submit all the documentation except voter registration. But we'd encourage you to talk to the graduate school and also to international programs if you have questions about this. Okay, again, just some reminders. These policies, like I mentioned, this is state law. Sometimes I think people come in and they get upset with the graduate school for asking for this information, but we're just doing what we have to do to meet that legal requirement. Non-resident graduate students who are on assistantships are eligible for a non-resident waiver during their first year, and so that's so that you can have that time to be able to get residency. But if you don't establish that, then you would be responsible for non-resident tuition after the first academic year. And also, if you don't pay that non-resident tuition, you can end up having some pretty stiff late fees, so better to get it done. Okay, these are just some of the common issues that we encounter. The main message here is please talk to us. So a lot of times people won't have that full 12 months on at least one form of documentation. Or maybe they live part of a year in Washington and part in another state. Okay, and again, we're looking for that 12 consecutive months. Sometimes it is difficult to obtain parent tax information. So again, come talk to us if you have an extenuating circumstance. And then sometimes we see that people are claimed as a dependent, but they're otherwise financially independent. So that's a situation where, again, having that documentation to show us, and then just knowing that we need to do as much as we can to show that proof that you are financially independent and having ties in the state of Washington. Okay. The grad school website, if you click on current students, there's a link for establishing residency. So you can just click on that. All of this information is there. Also, all of those DOL links that I mentioned. And then there is a grad student orientation video on state residency on our website as well. So you can click on that so you can look through. It talks about most of the same things we talked about today. Okay. We're located up in the French Ad building, room 324. So if you have any questions, you can also give us a call or send us an email, and we're happy to help you. Yes? Sure. Sure. Yeah. Yep. You can talk to your department. You can give us a call. Also, another thing, especially if you're on an assistantship, you might see that the non-resident portion is still on there right now, and until everything clears, I think they were saying the first week of September. If you don't have things cleared by then, let us know for sure. But once that non-resident waiver hits, it should balance everything out. I don't believe so. I think you have to kind of keep checking on it.
Just have to keep checking on your MyWSU account to see when that's changed on there.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you're expecting a waiver, keep watching it and check in with us because we want to make sure that it posts so that you don't get late fees. Okay, good. Any other questions? Okay, well, thanks very much to Jenny and Jordan for your awesome help here. If you have any questions, please feel free to let us know, and always just stay in communication with us. We're here to help you. So thanks very much, and good luck with your programs. Okay.
Good luck. I guess there's one other thing. With the lease agreement, you may be just starting your lease now, so you'll submit your lease from August to August. The graduate school will require a new updated lease agreement showing into the semester as well. And the reason behind that is because we have had situations where we got a lease agreement from August to August, and then someone moves to Moscow, Idaho, just 6 miles away. So we want to make sure that you're actually living in the state of Washington. So it's a good idea to bring in an updated lease form. Otherwise, we will ask for that when you turn in your packet.
Good. Yes.
So I'm going to be located on campus after the semester at an extension center. So how would I can't just drop by and be or mailing it, I guess, but it would lag, all the documentation.
Right. So I'm going by how we process things. And so, when we do ask for an updated lease agreement, like Jordan said, we're looking for continuous presence in the state of Washington. Washington state law, I don't know what RCW it is. We can't apply a waiver unless you are physically in the state of Washington. So if you do move to an extension site, so what we'll do is we'll ask you to email the information. If you're comfortable with that, we'll ask you to email it.
Good. Yes.
If you do make a mistake and you don't have all the papers in order, are you granted some sort of grace period where you can get?
So a lot of the times, I'd say with 50% of the packets that we do receive, we go through it and double check everything that is needed, but the person that's making the classification decision will go ahead and email you at your WSU email address to give you a chance to bring in or submit via email the extra supplemental documentation that's going to be needed to classify you as resident or non-resident. Again, it's better to get your packets in early so we have time to determine that, because it can take a week to review a packet when we're receiving 10 to 20 a day. So again, that cutoff line is the 30th day of the semester. So if you're going to be missing documents, it's probably not going to be a good idea to be turning it in on that 30th day of the semester.
Yeah.
But yes, we will give you a chance to bring in other documents before classifying. Yeah.
What if you were technically a dependent of your parents for 3/4 of 2018, so until you moved here? Are they still not allowed to claim us as dependents on any amount of the 2018 tax returns?
Yeah, that is correct. They aren't supposed to claim you on the tax form because it ties back to your former state.
Yeah.
I know how that is because I had a daughter that went to Arizona and it was painful.
Yeah. Yeah. That's yes. Okay. Yeah, I'll put it back up for you.
Yeah, so what he's asking is, even if you are claimed as a dependent, but provide proof that you are 51% responsible for the cost of attendance, you will be classified as non-resident because it ties back to your state. That's when you will contact Dr. LeBeau.
Yeah. Yeah. So in that situation, what would happen is we would come in and meet and see if there was a way that we could work out potentially giving you something like a non-resident waiver to get you through that part of the year, until they didn't claim you. But yeah, and those are similar for yours there. If there's a situation like that, then you can come talk to us. But you have to submit your application first and get denied, and then we'll put you, go through the process of meeting with me and kind of figuring out what the situation is and if we can help. Yeah, how we can help. Yeah, okay. Yes, you're welcome. Right. Sure.
So
These are- yeah.
unfortunately, yes, because we've had situations like that where there are two parents in the picture and we do require both parents.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so what we're getting into here is very specific situations that I mentioned before where everybody has something a little bit different. So this would be a great case for you where you could just come meet with us and talk through what that would look like. By law, we're supposed to have that documentation because we need the proof that you're not being claimed, right? But we understand too that sometimes that's just not possible. So in that case there, we would definitely want to have the one parent that you do have interaction with, get their information. And then the other thing that we would be looking at is your own tax document to make sure that you indicated that you were not claimed as a dependent by anyone else. Okay, so in that case, right. So there's kind of a line where we do as much as we can. We have to do as best we can. And then at some point it kind of switches over. And if you're, if someone is defrauding the system where the parent is claiming them and they're saying they're not being claimed, then that IRS will find that out eventually, right? So, but we have to do our part to get it, as much information as we can. Yeah.
So I did have a situation where there was a student that had a parent, one parent was in one state and the other parent was in another, and it was only one parent that claimed the student throughout the student's life. And so what we had asked for is, during the divorce settlement, there's a parenting plan, and the parenting plan would indicate who gets to claim the child. Exactly. And so we'll also take that too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Good. Yeah, this isn't an easy topic. It's pretty complex, really. Did you have another question here? No? Okay, I keep thinking I see hands go. Okay, any other questions? Okay. So just start now, get started, get that driver's license if you haven't already, get your voter registration, vehicle registered, and start putting it together so that when you get down to this time next year, you can have your packet submitted, like Jordan was saying, as early as July. So just get it in so we can start processing it and let you know if we need anything else. And like I mentioned, keep in touch with the graduate school, let us know what's going on so we can help you out, okay? Okay, thanks everybody, have a good day.